Welcome, everyone, and good morning from New York. And for those who are sitting in India, good evening. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Sandra Rowe. I'm the CEO of the Global Blockchain Business Council, and I'm just delighted today to be able to welcome you all and say that we are thrilled and appreciative of the partnership with the Emerging Technologies Wing of the government of Telangana, and to be able to bring to you today Blockchain Central India. It has been months in the making, and we are finally here. And so we're excited for the programming. But I want to focus a couple things on not only blockchain innovation and its adoption in India, but to thank a few of our key leaders on the ground who have really helped us drive and bring this event forward. I want to thank our hosts, not only those within the government of Telangana who have helped support to organize this, but in particular, Shri, Jayesh, Ranjan, Garu, Principal Secretary, Industries and Commerce and IT departments within the government of Telangana, as well as Srimati Rama Devi Lanka Garu, Director of Emerging Technologies and OSD, IT&E and C Department, Government of Telangana. And we have a special guest. I want to thank in particular Dr. Rajendra Kumar Garu. He's the Additional Secretary, Ministry of Electronic and IT, Government of India. And with that, I want to just say a couple words of not only welcome, but in light of everything that we've all gone through in the past year, we're seeing the acceleration of the digital economy. And the one main conclusion I can come out of that is that we actually need each other more now than ever as a global community. The public sector needs the private sector. The entrepreneurs need the larger corporates and enterprises, and we need each other to collaborate. Whether you are an NGO, sitting in government, an entrepreneur, an executive at a very large corporation, or a supranational, we all need each other. And the more we collaborate, the more we continue to talk to each other and break down the barriers that emphasize the division and the differences, we will actually be stronger together. And one thing I have to say about blockchain technology that I find amazing, amongst the many things that I find amazing about this technology, is the collaborative nature and the collaborative encouragement it brings for us to connect together. We need to do this together in order for us to scale. We need to do this together in order for us to actually design the systems that will make sure that we do not leave people behind. The digital divide and widening of that gap, especially during times of the pandemic, does concern us. And at the GBBC, we care not only about nurturing the companies and the businesses of tomorrow, but we also want to make sure that we take care of our societies and communities in a way that is inclusive, provides access, and allows for many opportunities around the world, not just in a city, not just in one town, but in many places. So with that, I welcome you again and thank you, in particular, the GBBC team, Sophia Arendt and Brandon Pilar, for helping us bring this together. And I turn it over to the next speaker. Thank you and have a great evening.
Hi, my name's Dave Treat, and I am thrilled to help open today's GBBC Blockchain Central India program. What a fantastic lineup of speakers today. I'm anticipating just fantastic conversations and dot connecting and inspiration as we think about how the blockchain and multi-party systems wave of innovation is setting the course for how we remake and rethink our global digital infrastructure. Just an amazing day ahead of us. I want to thank Sandra and the GBBC team for continuing to organize such phenomenal events. I have the honor of serving as part of the board of the GBBC and am always impressed. And a big thanks to the government of Telangana for hosting this with us and setting the structure for the collaboration and the convening of all of the stakeholders, public and private, and experts across our communities to come together for this dialogue and this day's set of content. As I think about the year ahead of us and where we've been in the past couple of years, the acceleration of our digital infrastructure and its importance to our local communities and our global community, it couldn't be more inspiring, more challenging. And there couldn't be more opportunity in front of us as we fundamentally remake the meaning of money with central bank digital currency and all forms of digital currency. When we start to think about the next evolution of digital identity, for which India has certainly been a leader in the past, and thinking through how the hybrid structures for identity across governments and public and private institutions can work and improve. As we think about shared data infrastructure and tokenization, having moved us in the past, we've moved from paper to electronic over the past 30 years, and now beginning the process of moving from electronic to tokenized, and what that can unlock as we drop some of the orthodoxies and just assumptions that we've had around what the digital world is. I'm spending more and more time, within Accenture, investing into how do these building blocks that we've been working on of digital currency, digital identity, shared data infrastructure, the ability to, for the first time ever, to have unique objects in the digital world, how these building blocks come together with other technologies like the huge leap forward in quality of XR hardware and immersive experiences. This notion of being able to rethink what our digital world is. It's not something experienced on a flat piece of glass the way I'm interacting with you today. It has the potential to be truly immersive, to create structures that are obviously unbounded from the restrictions of the physical world, but yet need to be grounded in the pragmatism of what do systems really require? How do you have the confident, predictable exchange of value? How do you know that the parties with whom you're interacting with are who they say they are? And so our foundational capabilities that we're building in the blockchain space to be able to provide that superstructure for how the digital world will evolve, paired with just the amazing improvement in hardware and immersive experiences, the quality, the richness. I was just joking with or reflecting with my team around how many of us were fooled in Peter Cushing's portrayal of his character in the 2016 version of Rogue One, when he'd done such a, we'd first seen him in 1977 in the original Star Wars, and lo and behold, he sadly passed away in 1994. But yet in 2016, we were able to create, the technology existed to create a convincing avatar, and that was 6 years ago. The ability now, if you look at what Unreal's MetaHuman engine can do and the likes, and so you take that deeply impressive and lifelike and rich set of immersive experiences and add to it all of that what we're building in the blockchain and multi-party systems space, what an incredible frontier for us. What an incredible set of discussions to have. The policy implications, the responsible business, the sustainability conversations, the fundamental notion of truth and trust in systems. Again, we're playing at the epicenter of just incredibly important topics and ones where I'm very emboldened and encouraged that the technology is here to configure to what we're going to choose to be important in our local communities and our societies, that we can configure the technology to what we value. I think traditionally or historically, we've let our societal values, laws, and regulations emerge maybe in ways that were unanticipated from the technology experiences. And now I think we've got that ability to actually be very forward thinking about the social, the humanitarian, the legal, the regulatory, the governance related policy choices ahead of us as to how do we want our world to be, and how do we configure the technology to match it? And the technology is wonderfully configurable in that regard. So what a fantastic opportunity for us. What an exciting day ahead of us. I appreciate having a few moments with you to share some thoughts to kick off the day, and looking forward to interacting with many of you throughout the day. So welcome, and eager to jump right into it. So I will stop here. Thanks very much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're pleased to welcome Shri Jayesh, Ranjan, Principal Secretary for the Industries and Commerce and Information Technology Departments at the Government of Telangana, our co-host for today's event. Thank you, Mr. Jayesh, for joining us. I'll now hand things over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Greetings to all the participants, greetings to the panelists, all the attendees. It was a pleasure listening to Sandra and to David about their perspectives on blockchain. We are delighted to curate this Blockchain Central India, which focuses on showcasing some of the latest work which is happening in this country. As I was introduced, I work for the provincial government of Telangana and look after the portfolios of information technology and industrial promotion. There are multiple responsibilities that I hold, but one of the few that I really cherish is being the ambassador of GBBC from India. In fact, there are just two of us, myself and my friend Santosh Mishra, who is also one of the panelists in one of the subsequent sessions. So very happy that we have been able to bring this discussion focused on India. Some of you might be aware, but still let me repeat that after I complete my speech, we will move into panel discussions. There are 3 panel sessions that we have organized for today. The first one is something which excites me personally quite a lot, which is on e-voting and digital identity. This will be followed by a keynote address by a very senior member of the Indian government who looks after the Ministry of Information Technology, Dr. Rajendra Kumar. Thereafter, there will be 2 other panel sessions, one which will focus on some of the interesting work which blockchain-focused startups are doing in India. And we have curated some very exciting startups from our city of Hyderabad who will be explaining what kind of innovative work they have been able to achieve over the last few years. And finally, there is a panel session which focuses on digital assets and stable coins. We could have called it the future of money. And we know that this is something which is a very important global trend at this point in time. So we also want not just to speak about what we are trying in India in terms of stable coins, NFTs, DeFi, etc., but we also to learn about these domains from global experts. I would like to share a little bit about what we have been doing in the state of Telangana in the blockchain realm. And obviously, there are many things that we have done well. And that is one of the main reasons why I have been chosen to be one of the GBBC ambassadors. In Telangana, roughly around 2 years ago, we created our blockchain framework. In the government, this is the process that we follow, that any domain of technology that we want to really pursue and develop and widen, we first of all come out with a framework which clearly outlines what will be the responsibilities that the government will take, how will it build the ecosystem, who will be the other players with whom it will collaborate, and eventually what is the direction, what is the vision about that particular sector. So for blockchain, we brought out our framework in 2019, and there are 4 key pillars of our blockchain framework. The first and the most important responsibility which we have taken upon ourselves in the government is to develop the talent pool. We have an institution, a skilling institution in Telangana, which is called the Telangana Academy for Skills and Knowledge, or TASK, which has been mandated to lead the efforts in this regard with various reskilling and upskilling programs. And I'm very happy to share with you that hundreds and hundreds of students and lots of working professionals have participated in our blockchain skill programs and today are capable of developing blockchain solutions, blockchain products all by themselves. We also know that supportive infrastructure is very important, particularly for startups. So we have an incubator, one of the best in the country, that is called T-Hub. And T-Hub offers co-working space for startups. And we are now in the process of creating a larger facility for blockchain-based startups. So we are taking care of their infrastructure requirements. Most importantly, the government also wants to promote research and innovation. And today in the second panel, when you will hear about some of the work which our startups are doing, you will recognize the kind of innovation and the kind of research-backed innovation that is happening in our state. We have partnered with one of the premier IT companies of the country called Tech Mahindra. And Tech Mahindra and the Telangana government have jointly created what we call as the T-Block Accelerator. So this blockchain-specific startup accelerator was launched with the first cohort of 8 startups being selected through from a list of 160 companies who have applied. So you can imagine how rigorous this process was. And these 8 startups are currently going through this process of acceleration. In different academic institutions of the state, we are encouraging domain-specific research of topics that are of interest in Telangana. For example, in the state's agriculture university, we are doing some very interesting work on designing a seed traceability solution, which meets the requirements of our agriculture sector. So this is being facilitated under Ag Hub, which is the agri-tech incubator of the agriculture university. One of the other very important responsibilities that the government takes upon itself is to build a community by enabling collaboration. So we have created something very interesting, which many other blockchain ecosystems have also tried to learn about and replicate. We call it the blockchain district. Now, government has put together this core of the ecosystem called the blockchain district, whose responsibility is actually to guide and run various blockchain programs. And the government of Telangana is at the center of it, but we have also found very able partners in the form of There's a premier technology school in Hyderabad called International Institute of Information Technology. They're one of the founding members of the blockchain district. CDAC is again a Government of India institution which focuses on advanced computing. They are yet another founding member. And Tech Mahindra, it's a premier IT company, is also a founding member of the blockchain district. And as I mentioned a while ago, they are participating with us in creating an accelerator program for startups. So the national government, CDAC, the state government, that is us, academia, which is the Triple IT Hyderabad, and the private sector, which is Tech Mahindra. We have brought together different facets of blockchain technology realm in the city of Hyderabad in the form of this community. And our blockchain district also collaborates with the international blockchain community. So the blockchain district is among the partners of DLT Education Consortium, which has been created for globally recognized blockchain certification. And we join likes of European universities like Lucerne, UCL's Center of Blockchain Technology, Frankfurt School's Blockchain Center, University of Nicosia, and so on and so forth. Finally, in conclusion, I would like to mention that while the framework of our blockchain programs is quite robust, over the last couple of years, or let us say 2.5 years, we have been very successful in launching some very important GovTech programs using blockchain. And they cover supply chain issues like seed traceability. And we are also into finances. For instance, we have two projects in blockchain, both of which have received awards and recognition within the country. Like a very common usage of management of records, we also have a couple of solutions which manage land records, vehicles records, students' academic records, etc. And e-voting, the subject of our next panel discussion, as I said, is something that we feel very proud about. So we are now moving into the realm of digital citizen services, and e-voting, which is a application where the voting is secured using blockchain, is something which excites us quite a lot. And the final piece of good news that I would like to share with you is that the e-voting trials, the first of its kind in India, are taking place from 8th onwards, which is tomorrow. So we are also at the cusp of something which is going to be very historic in the country, the first ever trials of remote voting or e-voting. And as I said, blockchain will play a very, very important role in that. So with these, I once again thank GBBC for partnering with us to curate this very exciting webinar that focuses on showcasing the best of blockchain work that is happening in India. I congratulate all the GBBC leadership once again for giving us this opportunity, and look forward to a wonderful series of exciting conferences and dialogues in the future. Thank you very much.
so much for joining Blockchain Central India in partnership with the government of Telangana. We're absolutely delighted to be here today. Our first panel will be on paving the way for e-voting and digital identity. I'd like to hand things over to our moderator, Atul Singh, to kick us off. Thank you.
Hello, very good evening to those of you who are in India, and a good morning to those of you who are in the US. Good afternoon to those in Europe. So let's kick it off.
Thank you so much for joining Blockchain Central India in partnership with the government of Telangana.
Let's kick it off. Let's begin with the first question. A few years ago, when I was younger and had hair on my head, there was a lot of talk about Aadhaar. And Aadhaar, of course, for those of you who want to be reminded of it, is a biometrically secured national identification system in India. So the first question, and it's up for grabs, let's see who's bold enough to take it. What is Aadhaar and how does it work?
Okay, since no one is taking a stab at it, let me try. So Aadhaar is, of course, a digital identity program, which essentially captures two biometrics of everyone, which is iris scan as well as thumb imprints, all 10 thumb imprints, all finger imprints, all 10 finger imprints, as well as iris scan, and it stores against a particular individual, the name and address, etc. And it's designed to be very secure, and it does not, so it doesn't allow phishing trips into the database. So it allows a particular restricted response of yes or no, and in certain cases it responds with little more information. So that's a very quick introduction to Aadhaar. And of course, 1.3 billion people have been scanned, have been brought into the database.
So it's a massive logistical exercise. Now, quick question, how is the data secured? Is it on government servers with paramilitary guarding it?
Well, kind of. I have been to the data center, and they have I think, top of the line protocols to ensure that data is never accessed. No unauthorized access happens to the data. The packets which request a verification, they have to have a certain protocol to be followed. Even now, what happens is the devices. So, for example, there are two types of verification. They have online verification, they have offline verification. So, online verification, when authorized agent requests an online verification, they capture the biometric information of an individual, wrap it around in a packet and send it. And while sending it, there is a complete, security protocols which are followed. So, on which encryption it has to be encrypted, what should the packet look like, on who will be the carrier which will carry that packet, and the carrier doesn't get to open the packet. The packets have to be opened at the termination point. So, all those protocols are there. And of course, they have physical security is also ensured.
Which brings us to the next question. You obviously have an elaborate investment, an elaborate logistical exercise to get 1.3 billion people on such a system. What are the benefits of a national digital identity system?
Anyone? Would Ramaji, would you like to take a?
Sure. Yeah, I would. Initially, Aadhaar was started as an authentication mechanism to, as most of the people in India are illiterate, they do not have an identity system to either access financial services or, for that matter, any kind of service. It's a kind of a very laborious process, that they need to identify themselves. It's really pathetic. It has been pathetic. But with the advent of Aadhaar, the entire thing changed. Now people have this digital identity, which they can use it for accessing, be it financial services, be it government services. First of all, you are, sort of recognized, an identity is given to you, which is huge socially, Then if you come to benefits, as I said, social direct benefit transfers by the government, it's like ration card, which is given to avail certain food services, food coupons. Then financial inclusion. Earlier, opening a bank account for poor people had been, highly, I mean, it was cumbersome, but now with Aadhaar in hand, it's so easy. Financial inclusion is one of the biggest achievements of Aadhaar. And as Aadhaar progress, it has kind of developed into an ecosystem, a platform spawning, different services now. The private sector is offering a lot of services, be it telecom, they're using Aadhaar for giving your SIM card, or if you look at health services, health identity, they're giving based on your Aadhaar. In your bank account, as I said, for authenticating you, for opening a bank account, UPI transactions. Now, the kind of services that are being delivered through Aadhaar is growing exponentially. Yeah, Atul.
Fantastic, Ramadevi. Thank you for your intervention. Now, let me turn
Can I just add to it a bit? Atul?
Please, go right ahead.
So there are two things. I think, of course, it brings all the benefits which Ramaji was saying. And Saurabh is there, and Mr. Lakshmi, I have interacted with her as well. So both of them can actually share their experience as well. See, basically what happens in a country like India, or for example, any country which is developing, there is a huge importance to identity. And in fact, in one of the articles I wrote, I argued that the burden of identity is disproportionately high to the poorer sections of the society. So, and particularly if you look at, India, there's a huge migrant population. So people migrate from one state to another for their livelihoods, for seasonal migrations, there are cyclical migrations, and there are permanent migrations and all. And if you look at from their perspective, this has become a key enabler for them to actually access safety net, whether it is food safety net, whether it is social security safety net, whether it is health safety net. In fact, one of the reasons why this Prime Minister's, this Ayushman Bharat Yojana, which is essentially a universal health coverage for all the families which are below the poverty line, one of the main reasons for success of that scheme has been this, that it does not require people to fill up elaborate forms, get subscribed to this scheme, get a separate identity card, or typically when you see government schemes, for every government scheme, there's a card which is issued. So the beauty of this is that it actually takes Aadhaar, and that's it, no questions asked. You give your Aadhaar number to the healthcare provider, whether it is, there's a huge list of about 2.5 lakhs, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just remembering from my memory, huge number of hospitals which have been empaneled. So you just go there, give your Aadhaar number, and actually you can be served without having to fill out large forms or having to prove that you actually are eligible for this beneficiary. So this safety net access, it's based and built upon this entity called Aadhaar. So that's very significant aspect of it. I think if maybe other panelists can also add to it based on their.
If I may, very quickly, I served as an Indian Police Service officer in Nagaland ages ago before I started Fair Observer. I left for Oxford and then moved to the US. And I remember those days where identification was a huge deal. Even my father was in the military, but even when we moved from one place to another, we had to fill out, and we were middle-class people, but even we had to fill out reams of forms. So this digital identity is important for a whole host of things, absolutely. And in a poor country like India, with interstate migration, rural-urban migration, leakage of benefits and so on and so forth, I can say that even from my own limited personal experience in the government, that it was clearly something sorely overdue by the time it arrived, and it seems to have worked very well. So, well done to everyone involved in it. I mean, we could crack on about Aadhaar, but let's move on to the key topic, which is that, look, Aadhaar is working very well. That's great. So what role can blockchain and other distributed ledger technologies play in the evolution of digital identity systems? What are some of the benefits? What are some of the drawbacks? What basically is your view of such a system? Saurabh, do you want to go?
Sure. Let me start with that. So we have covered the benefit of Aadhaar. At the same time, we need to also acknowledge that it is a centralized system. Now, if we look at how we are using technology, it is still very, very challenging to prove our credibility and identity in the online world. And we want to somehow we want to have a mechanism where we are able to prove our identity like we do in the offline world by sharing some of the physical cards we have, like the Aadhaar or the PAN card. If we can do that without sharing the private data, if we are able to do that in the online world, it will be very, very beneficial to the citizens of India. If we look at, we are building multiple public digital platforms. We are building health stack. We are building agriculture stack. The health stack is initially it was called National Digital Health Mission, and now it has been rebranded. It has been rebranded to Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, and we are building an agriculture stack which is called Idea Project. We are building education stack, which is called NDR. Now here we will be creating unique ID for all the relevant stakeholders. We will be creating a unique ID for the patient, for the doctor, and for the hospital, which are called health registry. Similarly, in the agriculture stack, we would be creating a unique ID for the farmer. And in the education stack, we would be creating a unique ID for the teachers and the student. Now, there can be one person who can play all these roles. He can be a patient, he can be a teacher also, right? Now, in the offline world, we used to have physical cards, but to really integrate these systems and ensure that the identity is proven easily in the online world, I think the self-sovereign identity and blockchain can be a game changer, and it can really benefit to integrate all these different public digital platforms which India is developing. So this is one of the benefits which I can clearly see and will be very, very useful if we are able to implement it.
So Saurabh, help me walk through this. I'm clearly someone who studied English literature and history and then philosophy, politics, and economics. So I'm not a technology person. So walk me through this. Right now you have Aadhaar. Let's say you show up at the airport, your identity is verified. Yes, it goes through a central database, it comes out. You want to get a benefit, your identity is verified. You're talking about agriculture and health. Yeah, even in that case, different stakeholders arguably currently can get prove identity. What tangible benefit does blockchain bring into the picture? How is it different? What is the new added value?
Okay, so the new added value for the blockchain is, first of all, it is decentralized.
So that means it'll be on everybody's laptop. Anyone can access it anytime.
So if we have the digital wallet, it will be stored on a digital device. But at the same time, the challenge will be the adoption. We need to see how adoption of this can happen in India. But since it has a lot of long-term benefits, we need to start somewhere.
I see.
Right. And then if we are creating so many digital platforms, and if we have different login for all these platforms, it can be challenging for users to really leverage those platforms. But if we have one central identity, and using that, we are able to get access to all these platforms. I am talking about these three major platforms, but we are also building other digital platforms. Now, instead of having 10 different logins, if we have only one login and using that login, we get access to services of
So can
all
you
those
not
platforms.
just quick? Can you not use one login if you use Aadhaar currently, or do you need blockchain to use one login?
So we can use Aadhaar also, but at the same time, it is that Aadhaar is not mandatory. If somebody don't want to use Aadhaar and they want to use any other way to log into the system, we are allowing that. But now, if in the online world, now if I want to do my validation using Aadhaar, there there needs to be a biometric validation. Okay, so for that to happen, we need to have the hardware device to really happen that, right? Even my fingerprint validation or iris validation. Now, if we look at blockchain, we don't need those hardware devices also to prove my identity, because we are using a very secure blockchain network, and with the use of public key and private key, I would be able to access those services online. So we won't need any hardware to validate my biometrics.
I see. So it'll make it much more accessible. Everyone will be able to, it'll be stored on the cloud. It'll be through a technology, existing blockchain based digital identity technology. And that brings us to a question someone has asked. Is there an existing technical platform on which a blockchain based digital identity would be built? Is it an existing blockchain or something new?
I would like to take it.
Brilliant, please.
Yeah. So let me tell some of the initiatives from government in this direction. See, if you look at it, when you talk about identity, we have various things, like one is DigiLocker. So where we try to keep track of the various credentials about the various certificates and other things, license and other things. All this lead to the identification of the citizens, right?
This is government of India. This is government of India.
Yes,
Brilliant.
government of India. DigiLocker kind of platforms are available. Now, this is something like a centralized platform where you can enable the citizens as well the various agencies to onboard and try to enable these kind of certificates onto the DigiLocker, and later give the credentials for people to verify through the different views from that particular thing. Now, these kind of systems are already enabled by the government. Now, actually, what is the plan is, like, if you look at the evolving or emerging technologies, like, for example, we are talking about the blockchain. See, now, actually, if you look at the benefits of this particular technology, we have the systems, centralized systems through authorized agencies, actually, are parties. We are able to submit the various identity material, and later the different the organizations and all subscribed organizations, they're able to verify the credentials of these people. So here, actually, like there are various challenges, some kind of challenges which you are facing through the known channels and other kind of things. So though the digital signatures are available, but the tamper evidence and verifiability aspects, there are some challenges in the existing systems. So to build such kind of things, the government is working towards a unified blockchain framework kind of platforms to enable, so that this kind of platforms can be used for various services, like whether you talk about identity management or you want to maintain the land records on that particular thing, or education certificates. If you look at it, in all the cases, our requirement is tamper evidence and or tamper-proof storage, and we need to have auditability and verification features. So which are the value addition by going for this kind of technologies. So what happens is, if you go for a, like suppose I am going for a DigiLocker, one particular platform, for land records, different thing. Each one will work in silos, and there cannot be interaction across them, and there is no interoperability. Such systems may not be suitable in the long run for the country. And there can be some kind of data also to be accessed across the different applications. For that, the government felt that there is a need for unified blockchain platforms supporting the different applications, enabled with a suitable APIs where the different departments, ministries, state governments can build applications on top of it, So one of the application is identity management. It can be health related, it can be agri related, and we can interface with the DigiLocker or e-sign platforms. All these kind of things can be enabled through this kind of things. This is a vision of the government of India, and there is a roadmap which is evolved from the Ministry of Electronics and IT, and there is a plan to come out and onboard various applications in the next 5 years.
So as I understand it, once you have this technology, let's say land, which is a source of major dispute, anyone would be able to go and using this blockchain technology, because it's decentralized, everyone will be able to see, okay, who owns this land, and title, land title and ownership will be clearer. This is one of the benefits. Brilliant.
So
good. Now, that was very kind. That explains a lot. The question about what blockchain-based digital identity system, an existing blockchain or something new, still is hanging, and you don't have to answer that if it's something you don't want to deal with it. It's just somebody in the audience asked it.
Can you repeat that?
Basically, whether to build this system, are you using an existing blockchain or something new? What's the technical platform?
Please go ahead, Lakshmi.
It's something like, the idea is onboard some of the existing platforms and also look for an indigenous one in the long run.
I see.
So these are the plans, actually.
I see. Brilliant. Now, when we are speaking of plans in the 2020 Tamil Nadu blockchain policy, the government of Tamil Nadu identified several use cases where the implementation of blockchain could have, quote, unquote, maximum impact. Now, one area was the creation of a portable digital identity and implementing privacy protection for the residents of Tamil Nadu. Now, this sounds very good, but can you tell us something more about it? Why was it viewed such a key area for the implementation of blockchain?
Yeah, so I think the whole, and I think it connects to your previous question as well.
Yeah.
See, the real value of blockchain gets unlocked when you have the whole ecosystem behind it. And I'm so happy that I was listening to Mr. Jayesh, Ranjan, and the Telangana government has really taken a lead in building that whole ecosystem, startups, governments. And I think Brandon, in his earlier message, he was talking about that. And Sandra was also saying the same thing. We need more of each other. So the private sector needs public sector, and the public sector needs innovators and creators. And I think this whole approach, and also it connects to what Lakshmi was saying in terms of creating a national blockchain unified platform, because the more number of people are allowed to play on this, and I give this example quite often, it's like creating actually a blockchain highway. So the more number of people actually using it, make it more robust, make it more, unlock much more value, and it allows for more innovation to happen. So when we were doing our policy, and Tamil Nadu government I was earlier in my previous avatar, I was the Commissioner of E-Governance and looking after these technologies. So the main motivating factor for us was one of the key functions of government. And if you look at it over the last 5 to 7 years, sorry, it's a little longer answer to your question, but I think it's important that we kind of peel it.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you look at last 5, 8 years, 10 years, there has been a tremendous shift of governments and public policy experts in ensuring that public delivery systems improve. So people, instead of, and lot of discussion has been focused on, and as I said, this Ayushman Bharat Yojana is a great example as how to make things more inclusive. Instead of, every time you ask somebody for their identity, it becomes discriminatory, as I've earlier said. It's very discriminatory, and it's always a much more onerous responsibility for socially disadvantaged person to prove his or her identity than it is for the others in the society. So the moment you launch a scheme and insist on producing an identity, you have already cut the bottommost and most vulnerable section of the society from the benefits of that thing. So last 5-10 years, the public policy experts and governments have been talking about improving public service delivery, and they have been talking about inclusiveness. And this ensures this. When we were designing our system, so we said one of the main functions of governments and its transactions with people is huge amount of data exchange which happens. So data from people to government, from one government department to another government department, and then from that government department back to the people. So it's always connecting the people, but through multiple routes. So could we have a simple connecting all, a highway which will be enabled, and it will give full control of data in the individual's hand. So if you, there was a peculiar scam earlier. People used to, for railway reservations, they used to give their Aadhaar card numbers for their identity. and earlier, now, thankfully, that practice has been discontinued. They used to paste this reservation slip on the railway compartments. And what they will, the unscrupulous elements will do, they'll just take a picture of that. And now they have names and numbers of people with their, PAN cards. And they would use these to track tax evasion. Government has said that every bullion purchase of above a certain quantity needs to have a PAN number. And they will use these PAN numbers and these names to actually do this. So when we said digital identity, we were very conscious of the fact that one of the major benefits of, and you were asking Rama earlier, why are we moving from Aadhaar to blockchain? And one of it's digital identity 2.0, if you will. And one of the advantages is that this is not possible now. If your digital identity is secured on a blockchain, you can selectively give information which the other party can use without having to, actually it's a tokenization of your identity. So without having to store your name, date of birth, your PAN card number, your Aadhaar number, all that cannot be stored anymore. And that was the driving force for us doing this. Sorry, very long answer to your question. But I thought that this will bring a lot of interconnected points, and it also refers back to Saurabh's idea of doing an agriculture use case, health use case. All that should be actually woven and built around this main one connecting highway. So that was the motivation for us.
No, thank you. This was very useful, but I'm a little unclear about just one thing. So right now, Aadhaar card on the train ticket, someone takes it, someone can use it, misuse it rather, and that's a problem. Let's say once you have blockchain, will you not require this number? Will you have another number? How does safety come in? Just walk me through this, because I'm unfamiliar with the practical operation. How do I feel secure if I go and get a train reservation?
Right. I mean, so train reservation was PAN cards, not Aadhaar. Aadhaar is actually one of the important things we forgot about. Aadhaar is it's an identity which is governed by an act called Aadhaar Act. So there are certain, so if you do anything funny with the Aadhaar, you actually are in violation of the law, rather than just an executive order. So it's a much more
understood. There's legislative backing. No, yes. Understood. Absolutely. But yes, I mean, but PAN numbers and other forms of your driving licenses, they can be used. So what happens in this is actually when you sign or you certify that it is you who's doing this transaction, or this is your record you're sending, you can choose to select the part of the information which you are wanting to share with the other party. It can be just your name, it can be just your age, it can be just your date of birth. It can, so for example, I mean, if you have to give proof that you are above a certain age, you don't have to disclose your father's name to that individual, right? But when you give a photocopy of your existing document, you actually end up disclosing much more than what he or she is. Understood. So you basically, to put it very simply, you probably get a number, and all you need to share is that password or token, and that doesn't reveal anything confidential to another party, and therefore is not open to abuse. Sorry, I ran you through this because I want listeners to be clear how this
Absolutely.
works.
And more importantly, it's something which the other party can use it without having to worry about whether it is authentic or not. Because blockchain provides that technology which is supposed to be tamper-proof. So once I have given it, I cannot go back and say, no, sorry, I didn't give you. And in fact, the TRAI, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, they're trying to implement this spam filter using blockchain. And I think one of the things they do is this. Anyway, I think I'll shut up at this point.
No, not at all. Understood. Now, there's an interesting question that comes up. If such a robust identity system, blockchain-based system does come into existence, then could it help provide the backbone for future e-voting systems?
I'll take that.
Yes. Please.
In fact, in the opening remarks, in the keynote address, our Principal Secretary, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, said that we are very proud of one particular initiative that we have undertaken, which is e-voting. In fact, I'm very happy to say that because we have developed that application, we are about to implement, from tomorrow onwards, carry out the dry run. Well, the backbone for it is, of course, having a digital identity. Because that highway, as Santoshi sir has mentioned, that highway or the foundation is already laid for us. Each person can be individually authenticated, that is the biggest challenge for us to actually go for e-voting. How do you authenticate an individual who is voting that a particular, if you're Atul, how do I, authenticate you as Atul, right? So this digital identity, Aadhaar, has provided us that foundation to start of e-voting, Yeah.
Atul. So that's very good. Is it a Government of Telangana initiative or Government of India initiative?
Well, this is a Government of Telangana initiative. And to be honest with you, it's an inspiration from Tamil Nadu, I would say. They've organized one event a year back with all the election commissioners of India, wherein this discussion has taken place, whether we can actually go with e-voting. And, that was when this idea actually hit upon us. But that actually, this took into shape or came into, actual practice, I would say, when the pandemic hit us. During that pandemic, government had to actually conduct elections, at various assembly locations,
absolutely,
constituencies or somewhere. So senior citizens and certain vulnerable sections of people having comorbidities, they were not willing to actually go to physical booth and vote, That is when the Election Commission came to us. I mean, I work for IT&C department, where we help government departments come out with technical solutions. They reached out to us asking, can you help us in actually coming out with a system that enables, senior citizens who are above 60 or 70 to vote from the comfort of their homes. So that is how this project was born.
Right. So what I hear is,
and my compliments to both of you. I think this was amazing, and I think that conference we did, and after that, this was actually taken to logical conclusion by Telangana government. So kudos to you and Jayesh Ranjan sir for making it a reality. So I would be very keen on knowing more about it.
So sure. I'm very keen to know more about it, and I want to know. I've just been told that older people can now vote from the safety of their homes, and vulnerable people can also do so. So it leads to greater inclusivity. So that's one. But what are some of the other challenges or shortcomings of the existing voting systems that such a system could address? And why use blockchain, or why not something else?
Yes. Initially, I mean, we thought of addressing, or enabling senior citizens and such people. But we realized, as time passed by, we realized that this has to be extended to other sections of the populations too. As you rightly posed that question, there are certain challenges in the existing system. In India, except for security personnel working on the border areas, or for government officials who are working at different places, others, I mean, they can use postal ballot facility, which is available there. But for other people, for example, Atul, people who are migrating to other cities within India, or to US or UK or any other country. So, for example, Atul, did you get a chance to vote in any of the Indian elections after you migrated to the US?
No.
That's a challenge that we want to address,
It's always been a challenge.
Exactly. So that is one of the key challenges that we want to address. People, wherever they are, they should, one, as you rightly mentioned at the beginning, that senior citizens or people who really don't want to get exposed to the pandemic, that was one challenge that we want to address. But second, most importantly, is the one, people who are residing anywhere else in the country or globally should be able to vote. So that was the key objective. I mean, that was the challenge that we wanted to address, where people were not able to vote if they're not residing in their own local constituencies. Yeah,
Well,
these are the critical challenges that we wanted to address, and that's how this e-voting system came into being.
Well,
and why blockchain? Yeah, the second question you said is why blockchain, right?
Yes, if you could answer that very quickly. I'm being told by my masters that we've run out of time, but please answer that in a nutshell. And then Lakshmi, Shri, please, you can.
Elections, are to be conducted in a free and fair manner, which essentially means you need to bring in trust and transparency in the whole system. Mm-hmm. And blockchain technology helps us to achieve that trust. As Santoshi has mentioned, immutability of records, tamper-proof is what helps us. Blockchain helps us in addressing those issues.
So, transparency, and as someone said, there's an audit trail. And so with that, I'll invite our very learned guest, Lakshmi Shri, to
So
conclude.
As Madam said, so you are mentioning about like why blockchain here. So I would like to stress in that actually, if you look at it, it's not blockchain alone. Whereas when we try to compare from the controlled environment to moving to uncontrolled environment. See now, right now, actually the citizens are going and voting in a specific booth where it's a controlled environment, where a person is verified, his credentials are verified, and all other things like specific mission, which is available inside the controlled environment they're trying to vote. So when we move away and we say that, okay, sitting at home from your smartphone, you can vote. So there are various aspects which are to be dealt with. One is how do we try to authenticate that person, identity management. As Madam said, like Aadhaar is one thing which we used in that particular thing, that particular existing service, which is widely used for offering various services that we use. And the mobile number seeding, whatever happened, actually binded with Aadhaar number, that is something which is trying to help us to identify that particular person and then ask the person to choose the smartphone which they would like to use it for this kind of voting. So what we do is actually after the other this thing verification, so we will have the OTP verification done through the other the binded mobile number, and then we'll ask the person to try to give the details of the mobile number through which they would like to vote smartphone for that particular. This is something like an uncontrolled environment where we are restricting to this device, and they say, yeah, from this device we can have maximum 2 people can try to select it. This is a kind of restriction we are enabling. At the same time, actually now from here starts actually. So how do we try to authenticate the person, biometrics and other things like that? Just a number and all other people can take it and do all this kind of thing. So that's where comes actually, so where actually we are trying to use this the connecting to the electoral the services and verify the face with whatever is photo which is uploaded there. And also we do the name matching from the other name with the electoral name, so that this will try to give the multi-factor authentication. And also like what happens is when we have an uncontrolled mobile device, there are a lot of threats at the device itself, Android device. So we do that kind of device root check, anti-emulation features, and then anti-hooking features which are available, and then that disable the display, the screen capture and other things like that. So all these kind of things which are taken care and restricting the people is something we are trying to take care when we move from the control to uncontrolled. So from here, actually what happens is we have a lot of cryptographic techniques and other things we are using through which we can try to identify the person, RO, a ballot signed through the RO and then providing to the mobile device, and then double encryption and trying to take the vote and stored in the blockchain. And in the blockchain, what we do is that time sequenced activities with respect to sequence of activities with respect to registration, voting, all these activities, attendance detail, they are stored separately in a separate channel on the blockchain. And the voting details, which are encrypted, double encrypted, they'll be stored in a separate channel so that the secret balance and all maintained. And then only through the RO signature with the token, they'll be able to decrypt the votes.
Brilliant. I think we are running out of time.
Multiple technologies are utilized here along with the blockchain.
All right. Thank
exactly.
you.
Just to add what Lakshmi said, we are using multiple technologies, not just blockchain, but artificial intelligence with blockchain is a powerful combination. You know, we're addressing various issues in e-voting.
Understood. We are running out of time. As someone who is a former officer who served in insurgency areas, my immediate thing that was flashing, what happens if a group of people get together in a room and use the cell phone? They are not in the privacy of their booth. But, you know, I'm sure you're thinking about these matters. I'm sure you'll come up with answers. There are many, many, many questions. We have to ring the curtain down from California. It's a very early morning. It's still dark outside. I'm in north of San Francisco. I wish you all a most wonderful evening, a most wonderful day if you're in Europe, and a most wonderful full day if you're in the East and West Coast. Bye for now.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for staying with us. We're here with Blockchain Central India in partnership with the government of Telangana. Our next keynote is our honored guest, Dr. Rajendra Kumar Garu, Additional Secretary for the Ministry of Electronics and IT at the government of India. Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for joining us. I'll hand things over to you.
Thank you, and very good afternoon to everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. So it's my privilege to be present here on this occasion in this event. So I'm going to talk about the blockchain as an emerging technology that is now being adopted by various stakeholders in India, including the government. And I'm also going to talk about how MeitY, that is my current department, Ministry of Electronics and IT, is using blockchain as a platform to really promote the best practices in e-government domain. So as we are all aware, blockchain is an emerging technology which is very helpful in promoting trust in a distributed ledger environment. And it helps the entities to build and maintain that trust without the need for having a central authority. So this basic concept of blockchain is very important in the online world when we talk about domains where there is a need for maintaining security, maintaining privacy, and maintaining trust. The Government of India, through the Electronics and IT Ministry, has been promoting blockchain as a part of the emerging technologies ecosystem to provide various applications. The first such application was implemented on a pilot basis in the state of Telangana last year, which was done by a MeitY organization called Center for Development of Advanced Computing. Under this project, the entire concept of using blockchain platform was demonstrated for the land registration system. And this has been running successfully in that particular POC district. Subsequent to that, now we are working on a national strategy for blockchain, which will serve as a national framework for promoting this very important emerging technology. As a part of the national strategy on blockchain, we are also now funding a major project on building a national blockchain platform. This national blockchain framework is going to be a major national effort in providing a common platform for all the entities within the government system, both at the federal level and at the state level, to use blockchain as a key strategy in promoting their own online applications and services. For example, states or the departments can choose to build e-governance applications on this blockchain framework using the new concept of providing a trusted and secured transaction platform for the services that they are providing. This also is going to be very useful in domains like financial services, in banking, etc., where again we are working with the concerned organizations to promote the use of blockchain as a preferred technology for ensuring safety, security, and trust. Let me also briefly talk about the wider domain of emerging technologies, which MeitY is very actively promoting to ensure that all the stakeholders, both in the government and the private sector, can take full advantage of the capabilities of the new technologies. We are working on getting a national program on artificial intelligence in place, where the goal is to promote the use of AI technologies for the government departments' applications, and also involve the private sector in ensuring that the algorithms can be developed, they can be tested, and they can be deployed to really improve the interface that the government departments have with citizens for providing online services. Already, MeitY is working with the private sector and with the IT industry in promoting the startup ecosystem in the emerging technologies. We have 22 centers of excellence across the entire country where we are supporting startups to really help them in doing advanced research and development, and in developing applications which can be deployed in various domains in the industry, in the government as well. And the services can be offered to them for ensuring that they can improve their quality of services, they can improve their competitiveness, and they can take advantage of the advanced capabilities of these technologies. These centers of excellence have proved very useful in promoting the startup ecosystem and in bringing very advanced capabilities on board through this support mechanism that MeitY has put in place. We also have set up a MeitY Startup Hub. So this hub is already operational, where through this unique initiative, we are supporting currently more than 4,000 startups, very advanced level technology focused startups in various domains of technology, including, for example, AI, blockchain, drones, 5G, then augmented reality, virtual reality, autonomous vehicles. So all these domains, the startups we are promoting through the MeitY Startup Hub, where again, I would encourage the startups to really come forward and take advantage of this support ecosystem that MeitY has created for the tech-focused startups in India. The entire efforts that MeitY is now undertaking in collaboration with government departments and the private sector is to achieve the vision of $1 trillion digital economy that MeitY has unveiled in 2019 for the country to achieve by 2025. So the next 5 years are going to be very exciting for the technology enthusiasts in India, for us in MeitY, and for everyone that wishes to really help the country in achieving this very important vision that we have set for the government. I would really encourage all the participants to reach out to MeitY in case they want to participate in any of our activities or any of the programs that we are implementing in collaboration with the government departments and the private sector. And I would also like to inform here that in addition to these efforts in emerging technologies, we are also promoting e-governance in a very big way. This is being done through the approach of converting the current applications into major platforms, what we have called as public digital platforms, where the goal is to bring the diverse applications in any domain onto one common seamless interface for the citizens and businesses to be able to obtain services without having to navigate through multiple portals, multiple websites, etc. So one example of this platform approach is the National Digital Health Mission, which has been launched by our Prime Minister some time back, where the goal is to provide everyone with a unique digital health ID and to build a digital interface for all the healthcare service providers, both in the public and private sector, so that for a citizen, it would be very easy to discover a healthcare service provider and also discover the other ecosystem partners, for example, health insurance providers. They can discover the costs of services. They can maintain their unique health records in electronic form on a cloud platform. So all this is now being enabled. Already this National Health Mission is in operation in 6 union territories of the country, and now it has been launched for all the other states. So in the next 1 year or so, we hope that this entire platform will become operational for everyone in the country to avail of. Similar efforts are now underway in domains like education, in agriculture, in transport, etc., where the goal is to convert those domains, the current applications, into major national digital platforms where the concerned domain services can be offered seamlessly to everyone. We also are very active in promoting electronics manufacturing ecosystem in India, where the goal is to make India a global hub for semiconductor manufacturing and for electronics and other major items manufacturing at a global scale. We have achieved great success in promoting India as the global hub for manufacturing mobile devices. We are currently the world's second largest mobile phone manufacturer in the entire world. So this is a major achievement that we have been able to achieve under the Digital India program over the last several years. The goal is to take the initiative forward and promote the digitalization of the economy and infusion of the advanced digital technologies, so that the country can achieve the vision of $1 trillion digital economy in the next 5 years. So this is the overall vision that we are promoting in various ways. And to achieve this vision in the post-pandemic new normal, where we are seeing greater adoption of digital, we have adopted the digital first strategy, which we are requesting and asking everyone to really make their core philosophy, where the idea is that whatever schemes they implement, whatever programs they implement, they must think digital as the first strategy to transform what they are doing and what they want to achieve. So this is a new framework that we have put in place for all government departments to really think very seriously. We are also working with the private sector collaborators to really promote digital first as the core strategy for all the things that they want to do and they want to achieve. So let me conclude at this point of time by wishing all the very best to the deliberations in this event. I'm sure the discussions would lead to new ideas, which hopefully we can all take benefit from and implement in our own programs and schemes. So thank you very much for inviting me here, and I wish all the very best to the entire event. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Blockchain Central India in partnership with the government of Telangana. We're pleased to welcome our panel on innovations for the future, charting the startup landscape. We have a number of wonderful companies here, so I'll hand things over to our moderator, Marcina Tilleman, COO of the Global Blockchain Business Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sophia. It is truly an honor to be here, and I'm excited to dive into this topic and to learn more about the innovation landscape in Hyderabad. To start, and just to set the stage for the rest of our conversation, I'd be grateful if perhaps Rajan, you could offer a brief overview of Hyderabad and situate that within the broader geographic and tech landscape of India. Rajan, if you can unmute yourself, and AJ, if you're willing to chime in as well, I think it would just be helpful to understand why Hyderabad.
All right, so I'll just take up that. Okay, thank you so much for inviting me here. So Telangana, as you know, I think it's the youngest state in India, and it was incorporated in June of 2014, almost 7 years. But we have made tremendous strides in terms of innovation. The way the startups are growing in Telangana state is mind-blowing, right? It is one of the top, states in India, which contributes to almost $140 billion in GDP for India. And also the per capita, if you see, it's around $3,200, which is on a very higher side compared to any state in India. So the state has launched the policies in 2016. This helps to boost innovation and entrepreneurship, and they want to leverage upon its natural demographic, which was there, because we have some of the best companies in the world is now in Hyderabad, which is the capital of Telangana. Telangana has also been ranked as one of the top startup destination and most innovative state series in many years, in fact, which was ranked by Government of India. The state has also created great models in the country. So we have some of the world's top, incubation centers, which nurtures a lot of startups, a lot of entrepreneurship and emerging technologies. Hyderabad is known for that. In fact, be it in blockchain, artificial intelligence, drones, everything we are on top, in fact. So the government under a great leadership of our Chief Minister, KCR, and our IT Minister, KTR, who is very innovative in terms of helping startups, nurturing them, and mentoring to see that put across to the right mentors through incubators, allowing them to flourish and grow in the state is mind-blowing. So everyone is now looking into Hyderabad and want to start their companies in Hyderabad. And more importantly, at the ITNC, as you know, I think Jayesh sir was talking some time back, who is the principal secretary, and Ramadevi madam, also who is the enabler and supporter for blockchain and all of the latest technologies, is making our state, which is great in all aspects, and helping us to create visibility across different countries. So that's why today we are all connected across who are in different countries. In fact, the state has nearly, a lot of premier institutions are also there as part of the ecosystem buildup. And each of the premier institutes have incubated facilities for startups. So from college time itself, people are now getting into that innovation aspects, and also have around 50 plus research organizations across Telangana, which is doing a yeoman job for innovation. So in addition to that, the government here is doing a lot of work for startup in terms of tax exemptions, in terms of helping for IP filings, providing grants for startups, and any kind of new POCs which are coming in, it's all going into startup. It's not about large companies anymore, but it's about people who are innovative, people who are fast, going into the entrepreneurship. So I think the state stands number one in that aspect. So that's more of Hyderabad. And in fact, we have T-Hub, which is a quite largest incubator facility in Hyderabad, and which has almost 120 startups incubated. And around till date, it's around more than 1,000 startups has been impacted somewhere or the other with T-Hub. And with almost around 2,000 crores of funding, which happens to all these startups across by government initiatives. And a lot of success stories are there. We can see billion unicorns coming out of Telangana state, and more to come going forward. And a lot of programs are running around. A lot of mentors has been provided by the state government for this initiatives to really take shape and be on top of the globe, right? So that's more about what Telangana as a state is doing for companies to nurture, grow, and make it big from Hyderabad and from Telangana.
Excellent. Thank you so much. AJ, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add.
Yeah, there are a few things which I can add on to it. So if you just look into the Global Startup Ecosystem report, the report itself will throw various lights into how Telangana and Hyderabad has been the budding place for a startup ecosystem. See, whenever somebody opens a startup, there are few things very essential for the startup to grow, is about finding right talent at an affordable cost, because you have a tight crunch situation always in your hand. There is a limited amount of money and an ecosystem where all the facilities around power, backup, electricity, internet facility, everything is at top notch available, right? And you have kind of a place where you just go and plug and play, you make your people sit and everybody starts working, right? So that's where the ecosystem is also, because of the infrastructure which is there present in the city, which is supported well by the state government, as well as the Ramadevi ma'am, as well as Jayesh Ranjan sir. So that's what makes it is a very different place. As Rajan already mentioned about the premier institutes which we have here, like IIIT Hyderabad, IIT Hyderabad, which actually provides young talent into emerging technologies, pumping young blood into a startup ecosystem, which makes it a perfect place to grow and make your country scale, make your company scale. So that's all would be from my side. I think Ranjan has already explained everything well and very detailed about other aspects also.
Absolutely. No, that was extremely helpful. Thank you, both of you. And just to further frame our conversation, I'd love if each of you could introduce yourselves briefly and speak a little bit to your business. So let's start with Enrupal, and then we'll go around. Just a brief introduction so everyone's familiar with the perspective that you're bringing to this conversation.
Hi guys, good evening. We are Statwick. We are a blockchain-based supply chain platform. And yes, so to add on to some of the things that some of my esteemed panel colleagues have mentioned, the government has absolutely been helping us find our feet and then, perfect our existing technologies. When it comes to supply chains, I don't think there's anything bigger than the government supply chains, right? Like these guys deal with billions of people, and we could only hope to achieve that scale. And governments do that. They're known for this. So they've been helping us perfect our stuff by using by letting us experiment and giving us the opportunities to do a few POC projects with the civil supplies department or with the women and child welfare department, with the excise department. We've been getting a lot of interest, and a lot of POCs are directed towards startups. Government plays a very active role in doing that.
Thank you so much. And over to you, Ajit.
Thanks, Marcina. I am Ajay, and I am co-founder of DLT Labs. DLT Labs, one of the R&D center, is located in Hyderabad. And we are a blockchain-based, product-based company. We are trying to solve problem of distributed data management and anything to do with data in blockchain space. And currently, we see that blockchain is the perfect technology to solve these problems. We have various products which has been adopted by enterprise. Walmart Canada is one of our biggest client who has adopted our blockchain-based product, which is known as DL Freight, for their freight management and supply chain management system. And apart from that, we are also in talks with a lot of local self-government body here in India, in Telangana as well as in other states of India around record management platform, which again solves the problem around distributed data. We see that at the core, all the problem around businesses is how effectively they communicate data within their department or within two different businesses. We see that businesses are there to collaborate, but whatever technology sets currently, which we have, if you exclude blockchain from it, generally makes data exchange, data sharing, data governance very problematic. And everything gets broken if there is a problem around data sharing, problem around data transparency, problem around data integrity, and data reconciliation, because all the information underlying it comes from underlying data. So we are solving that problem. We are trying to provide products and tools to various enterprises so that blockchain adoption can increase. We are trying to evangelize blockchain. That's what we at DLT Labs do.
Excellent. And over to you, Ajit.
Good evening, everybody in India. And I represent RealMeds. I'm founder of RealMeds, where we are working on a vision to how we can actually provide real medicine to everybody and each one of us. So how people can actually establish the authenticity of medicine. So we offer RealMeds as a traceability and elaborate counterfeit protection platform for the whole pharma industry, whether it is bulk API manufacture or formulations or vaccines. We cover all of them so that we can protect those brands and protect those drugs and ensure that each one of us is getting the safe medicine at the end of the day. So we participated in one of the pilots, which was initiated by the Telangana government to do the traceability and counterfeit protection for the anti-cancer drugs. That was in collaboration with the government IT department, which Ramadevi ma'am was actually leading that effort, and the drug control department. So I think this has helped us to validate our technology, certainly, because those days we was like we just came out with our MVP, and this certainly helped us, and it is continuing to help us to take this technology to other government departments across India. So yeah, thank you for all that.
Thank you so much, and over to you, Janice.
Hi, good day, everybody. I'm very happy to be here today. So my name is Yanis, and I'm from CV Labs. So to give a bit more context, CV Labs is the ecosystem of GBBC, a Swiss-based venture capital. So our idea is to invest in very early stage blockchain companies, startups, and we have sort of a global mindset, what also brought us to the Telangana government. So back in the days like 2019, 2020, we were working on a couple of projects together. We were joining a few of startup competitions from Telangana, and now we're having discussions on maybe having collaborations on the startup deal flows, maybe provide our international ecosystem to Indian startups and help them through their accelerator to join also our incubation program. So sooner or later, I think we will try to build on a global scale a network with different hubs. As we just recently underwent a very, very exciting year. We launched our new hub in South Africa, the CV Lab South Africa, and now also in Dubai, in the DMCC, and we're very looking forward to explore new opportunities.
Excellent, thank you so much. And finally, Rajan.
Well, thank you so much here. So I represent Stezi, Stezi.io, which is it's a blockchain platform as a service. This helps company of any size, be it a small, medium, or large, who want to integrate blockchain solutions across industry verticals, across different verticals in banking, financial, insurance, supply chain, retail, healthcare, or governments. So you can do it at a very optimized cost, optimized time. In under a week's time, you will be able to go blockchain ready from a POC to production. So across different blockchains which we have, which contributes to almost 60% market share. You have blockchains like Hyperledger, Ethereum, Quorum, R3 Coda, which has around 80% market share. And also across different clouds, be it Microsoft Azure or AWS or GCP, you can host across the world. with cross-region communication, compatibility across, and with a lot of governance which has been built on top of the platform on how multiple consortiums can communicate securely, share the data very seamlessly without having a security breach, and how the change requests can be managed across all these consortium partners who will be deploying it. So it's about the set of tools, ecosystem, complete blockchain ecosystem has been created. It's not just the blockchain, but it comes out with varied tools, including security tool for you to go and check your security vulnerabilities before you deploy the contract. You can do it in multiple ways of deploying the contracts. You have completely templatized contracts. You have an asserts which you can build. You can build an NFT directly without any kind of developer interventions. And you can, all these are private permission. In fact, collaborating these NFTs through the multiple consortium partners will be making much more easy for you to go and develop your blockchain journey and focus your core domain. And the companies who are into services can start using the platform, acquire more customers in less time, and do more for less, in fact. So that's more about Stacey.
Thank you so much. And it's really remarkable to hear about the incredible landscape that has been created in just 7 years, particularly when you realize that the majority of the last 2 years have been spent under very challenging circumstances. And I'd love to hear more about the role of public-private partnerships given the current landscape. I think perhaps Janus, you can speak to that, and Rajan, perhaps you can as well. And if others have contributions, I'd love to hear it. But what factors contribute to successful public-private partnerships and collaborations in Hyderabad?
Okay.
So I think I'd rather give you a bit more from a Swiss point of view, because obviously, as you know, we're based in Switzerland. But then I would love to hear actually from one of the following panelists what the contrast could be from an Indian perspective. So for us, from how we experience it, is that innovation is always driving regulation. So there will always be an actor-reactor moment. So whenever innovation emerges, there will be a response from the government in terms of regulation, etc. So we believe that it's very important that right from the start, when you realize that you're working in an ecosystem or in an environment which will be undergoing of regulation, which is inevitable, you look and search for fast communication. And from a Swiss point of view, this was taking place already right back in 2014, 2015, because I'm pretty sure you guys know that here in Zug, we are hosting many foundations, we are hosting many blockchain companies, which is due to the favorable regulations from the government. And from a private point of view, from our VC point of view, this is also very interesting because we managed to secure many collaboration with the Swiss government. For example, we're working with the Swiss Secretary for Economic Affairs to build an ecosystem in South Africa, or we're working with the local government to launch hackathons. And we're also enjoying like huge investment additions for those type of events. So that said, when you try to access the regulator as soon as possible, it will always be mutually beneficial, and especially in a space where you are looking at the blockchain, which is by default decentralized. And if you look at the governmental structure, which is by default centralized, you need to find the middle ground right from the start before the two ways go too separate from each other.
Yeah. So I think I'll just talk in terms of India standpoint. So I think a lot of things are happening at that front, both from the federal government here in India as well as state governments. Today, the collaboration has increased. Okay, so people who were working in silos earlier, it's all about how data is shared across and how an approach where we can make it much more decentralized. At the same time, we have a security layer built on top of it, right? So I think if you see, most of it are now public-private partnership is increasing, and the kind of opportunities even the younger companies are getting here in India. Today, we did a couple of projects which we explored with the government, in fact. So I can say that it has been quite easy to handle it. Earlier, it was like, I think government is now open up to see that how we really can, because they identified that these are the young companies who are going to really grow faster, right? So that kind of opportunities which is given for public-private partnership to see that how the innovation will go at the faster phase is defining. In fact, it is happening at the larger companies as well. If you see a lot of projects here with a mind-blowing speed, it is happening with public-private partnership because the government, especially in Telangana, is super fast in terms of getting investors coming in, getting different companies coming in from different states, right, to incorporate that in Hyderabad. Especially, that's the kind of initiatives which our government is taking up, which is really helping companies here. It is creating a ripple effect. In fact, people from other companies, other states are also now coming to India, to Hyderabad, to start their companies here and shift their headquarters. So that's because of the very positive policies which we have here. So I think in that case, it is really taking shape. And I think in the next few years, you will see the kind of returns which happens between these public-private partnerships. Already most of if you see railway stations was earlier here, it's all public. Now it is working out in public-private partnership. Airports, it's joint exercise by government and as well as the private parties. Everything, if you see, private parties are bringing in efficiencies. Government is doing the governance part of it really well. So that creates a win-win situation for the state as well as for the government.
Yeah, I would like to add 3 points if time permits.
Of course, please.
So these are the points that I have personally seen, which is kind of helping us. Is the government is certainly, so there is a level of interest with the government, and also government is ensuring that they create the capacity by doing POCs, right, bringing in the innovators to actually not just understand and learn about, but also invite them to do something concrete and learn from that and see how this can be scaled and rolled out to the benefit of the general public. Second point is that government is now, in the name of good governance, I think that's primarily driving is that certainly they are more open to bringing in more efficiencies by introducing new technologies and new approaches. So that is another thing which is helping us to actually get into this. And third thing, which is when we are getting into the contracts, I think they are not very lengthy contracts because they are very focused on, okay, this is what needs to be done, right? So they do not talk about, okay, you need to have so many lakhs of worth insurance to protect this, that, right? So all those unrelated aspects of the contracts have been taken out so that we are able to focus on the actual work or actual product or actual technology that we are there to deliver. So I think these three primary things which I feel is helping us to succeed with this public-private relationship.
Excellent. So moving on, and this question applies to many of you, but I'm going to direct it specifically to Anrupal and AJ. What have been the most important factors associated with founding a successful startup in the area? And how has Hyderabad and Telangana more broadly facilitated your success?
If I can go first, so we have started our company here maybe 3.5, 4 years ago, and we've been working with the government quite closely, and the government has given us a lot of opportunities in establishing ourselves. But apart from that, something that has really given us a big boost is the fact that so we are into vaccine tracking, right? So we do supply chain tracking for cold chains, and vaccines are one of the main things that we track. We specialize in that. And we've been able to do this because of the backing that we've received from the government, but also from UNICEF. So UNICEF is a very, very, it's a giant, right? Like they probably procure about 60% of the world's vaccines, and then they distribute them all across the globe. So they deal with one of the largest supply chains. And also Gavi, which is the Global Alliance for Vaccines, which makes up for the other 30 to 40% of the market. So in combination, these two bodies, these consortiums, because we've been working with them, we've been able to tune ourselves. And also the unique, the support that we've received locally, India being a massive a hub for vaccines, pharma, as the world has seen, right, with the COVID crisis recently, majority of the drugs produced are manufactured actually in India. So this has helped us out, we being at the place where it's actually manufactured, and then connecting the dots with someone placed somewhere else like UNICEF or Gavi. They would love to partner with us and to get in touch with the actual manufacturers, and we can play a very critical role in the supply chain process. That has really helped us grow. I think I can hand over to my colleague. Ajay probably has a lot more to share in this regard. Much more accomplished, I would say.
Thanks, Nirupal. Your accomplishment has been a very great accomplishment, given that it's all related to vaccine, and it's given that in such a situation in these particular last 1.5 to 2 years, how much importance it had for humanity and for human life. Coming to us, so in a supply chain, the most bottleneck which came during this pandemic was everything related to supply chain. How things are going to flow from one place to another, given that there were lockdowns, there were restrictions, there were sudden problems within a company because key people getting ill, getting sick, not getting proper care. So there was a lot of delays. And if the supply chain remains broken, ultimately we land into a vicious circle where you are not able to help the situation, because whatever you do not have data with you, you do not have right action points with you in order to take those actions. And I and myself and DLT Labs take a pride in that particular sense, that we have helped Walmart Canada for their freight management during this pandemic. And fortunately, our production deployment just did go in month of January and February. So when actually the things hit bad, our robust solution was there for any kind of freight management which happens for Walmart Canada, and it kept their supplies up and running. It kept them up and running in terms of whatever action they need to take, where the inventories need to be filled, which is the retail store where things are in crunch and needs to be supplied. And so anything apart from this pandemic added a whole bunch of pressure on the supply chain. And we think that given these aspects, it becomes more pertinent for us to solve the problem around any kind of supply chain in the world, whether it's related to medicine, whether it's related to supply of essentials, which are apart from medicine, mineral resources, power generation resources, which are involved. So it's a very important aspect. Being in Hyderabad, as I already told you, since the infrastructure was robust and our R&D team sits here, we do a lot of operations from this city. In fact, in pandemic also, we had all the infrastructure up and running, all the things which were required for us company to be there in up and running. Whatever support government provided were top notch and great.
It's so impressive to hear about the agility of government services in Hyderabad, because particularly over the last 1.5 years, I think the need for agility and resilience and being able to respond quickly despite changing circumstances has been highlighted. And I'd like to stay on the area of the pandemic a little longer. For many of you, your work has changed dramatically because of COVID-19, whether you're working in supply chain or Ajit, with your work, it's highly relevant to what we've all been living through. And I'd like to hear, and Ajit, perhaps we can start with you and then go to Rajan. And I'd like to open this question up to everyone. How has your work changed since COVID? And what have you been up to?
So Marcina, it was Ajit or Ajay?
Yeah.
All right, Ajit, I'd love to hear a little bit more about Real Meds and what you've been up to.
Yep. So certainly, I think the last 2 years had been very difficult for, I think, everybody and the whole industry, right? But I think there were a lot of learnings, I would say. And especially, I would say in a way that what COVID did to us is essentially so the kind of focus this vaccination drive had, right? The COVID vaccination, that everybody, pretty much every individual had the kind of visibility that was made available in terms of, okay, whether it is the cold storage aspects of the COVID vaccines. You ask even a layman, the guy would have some knowledge about that. You ask about number of doses. So there was a lot of, I would say, understanding of this whole process of how this whole vaccination thing would happen, right? And also, due to that, there was also a visibility of the problems which we all were facing. So there were issues like duplicate vaccines, right, coming into the market, and police raiding different places. So these kind of visibilities, in one way, actually, I think it helped us where now our users or our brand owners and our consumers both, they understand how important this topic is, because track and trace has been there for more than 4 or 5 decades, right? But now it has created that visibility that people understand that, okay, yes, this is important. And second is, certainly there has been problems and gaps with the traditional way of doing the supply chain track and traceability, right? And third is, we certainly need much more than a simple track and trace system. We need better protection, right? We need intelligent systems which can actually protect the brand from all these kind of, let's say, legalities happening because of certain reactions or duplicates. And at the same time, it should also have more elaborate checks and balances to protect people like us from getting a vaccine which is not either efficient or it is basically a saline water or something, right? So it has created, I think, that understanding in the whole industry, which is helping us to actually reach out to our brand owners now in a very different way, because there is a level of acceptance of this whole concept, right? So we don't have to push, or we don't have to oversell, or so they understand the need of this. And it has kind of also blockchain has created, I think, both the vaccine news and also, I think, the supply chain problems, and parallelly this blockchain. These 3 topics were actually moving together. So people have again got a little bit, at least they have heard that, okay, there's a blockchain which is supposed to be doing something better for this whole supply chain. And that is where actually we are able to have better conversation with the customers, and they are actually liking the features of the blockchain, like, okay, like, okay, my ledgers or my data can be immutable. That's good, because auditors love it, right? They also are liking the concept of that, okay, these paper contracts can be really enforced much better way using the digital contracts, right, between their supply chain partners. And third is that their data can actually move very quickly between all their supply chain participants, because data is not actually moving. It is a single view that everybody is getting of the same, this decentralized ledger. So these concepts now people are actually able to understand and even appreciate, and they now are able to relate that, okay, why these new techs are actually different from what they had been using or doing. So yeah, that's a difference that this has created, which is a very positive difference I'm seeing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Rajan, do you have any comments on that?
Definitely. I think Ajit has put wonderful points across. I think mostly it's been covered, but I see that it is a tremendous amount of learning we got in this because we haven't seen this kind of pandemic in the last 100 years, or since the time of our existence at least. We never saw this. So we thought that, okay, in the next 6 months it will be over, but it was never ending. It's almost now 2 years, still it is there, but we are now living it with it, right? We got adopted. But initial 6 months was quite challenging. People were not understanding, companies were not understanding on how to handle it, because this was immediately, it came it overnight and they have to shut the shops. Everyone started to moving to work from home, right? So the way the security is getting handled, but I see that because of the agility which each of this company has expressed and quickly learned things and moved in firefighting, in a very short time, they could able to, without impacting the customers, they were able to bring the change which happened. And thereby, there is a lot of digital transformation discussion started. I think every meeting moved to online. Now that security has been a key, on how we manage the data, how we control the data, how we ensure that our employee comply with data. And all these are questions for the CXOs, all this. So blockchain has come in blessing in disguise, especially in the supply chains. People were now in the vaccine supply chain, you have cold storage, you have a lot of different technologies which acts as a convergence, be it artificial intelligence, be it on IoT. It's not just only blockchain which goes in the supply chain. There is a multitude of technologies which comes up as part of the business use case for the customers to get benefit, right? So the digital transformation adoption has been increased a lot. And now that people want to, till that time, blockchain was just a hype. And there was a lot of cryptocurrency discussion which was happening till 2019, end of 2019, till the time we got the pandemic. After that, now people are now differentiating between what is this blockchain and what is this crypto, right? That is the way we started to educate a lot of people and created an ecosystem for blockchain. In fact, a lot of training has been given across to all the corporates to understand about where exactly the use case can be, implemented. So there by 2019-20, it was all about POCs. A lot of POCs has come up, especially in the supply chain area for various industries, be it automotive, be it vaccine. But healthcare transformation happened. I can say that be it in telemedicine, you see that how the wallets can be safely integrated, because it's all now working in silos, no standardization as such. And suddenly people thought of blockchain to be the piece where it gets plugged into all the systems, and the discrete parties will talk to each other very effectively without compromising on the data integrity. So that's where blockchain has picked up in supply chain. In healthcare, we could see tremendous traction coming in, especially in the clinical trials area, supply chain, and medical records in the healthcare. And supply chain across industries, you see cross-country communication, you get a lot of medical devices, medicines coming in from China and different countries. And with pandemic, there is a trust deficit between all these countries, and nobody believes in others, right? So ideally, that's where blockchain is now becoming a part of the complete supply chain ecosystem. And that is going to increase a lot. So I think 21, 22 is what is the year for blockchain before we get completely commoditized in 2023. That is as per Gartner, right? I'm just talking about that. So this, we could see that tremendous amount of transformation happened in all the areas. So I think a lot of learnings we got out of this, but in fact, we also got good traction during that time, even though people were working from home, we made it complete remote. None of the people were reporting to office. Our people operate out of 6 different locations, right? So all in traction. So we have good that we got collaborative tools like Slack, where we can communicate quite seamlessly. Zoom, we have meetings. So everything was happening without any kind of challenges, not much challenges. In fact, we handled that really well.
Absolutely. And it's pretty remarkable that we're able to have this conversation, even though we're scattered all over. And I'm mindful of time and tremendously grateful for the time that you've spent with me and with us this morning. We received one question from the audience. We actually received a few, but we don't have time to get through all of them. And I'm wondering, maybe Ajay, you can speak to it a little bit, and Rupal. The individual is curious about how they can get involved in the blockchain ecosystem in Hyderabad. They don't have a technical background, and they're wondering if there is still space for them in this industry.
Okay, so I can take that, and probably Nurupal can add more onto it. So a lot of people try to confuse blockchain only with if they can only contribute if they have technology or technical background. See, what blockchain is doing is taking forward a business transformation, and business transformation requires subject matter expert knowledge around that particular industry, understanding where the pain points exist, right? Then only you can use the available technology tool set to solve the problem. In fact, till 2018 or till 2019, people were still talking about blockchain 101, where they were trying to understand immutability, transparency, what does block mean, what does chain mean. But now we have evolved into a place where we do not talk about blockchain 101. We try to talk about whether the solution is going to solve the problem or not. There is no apprehension around the technology component, or there is no apprehension around that whether the technology works or not. Whether when the technology says that it is distributed, decentralized, and it is immutable. So now we do not have talks around it, but now the talks have matured towards a level where we are talking about solution, whether this technology is able to solve my pain point, whether that technology is able to solve my problem. And that's where people who have a knack of business solution, who have knack of understanding how businesses work, who can understand or can be an SME either in healthcare or can be an SME either in supply chain, freight management, logistics, or for that part may not be on blockchain, but have a good knowledge around the security aspects of the technology. So these are the very open space which is there for anybody to start contributing, because technology itself does not changes everything. It is just a tool. Ultimately, it requires people to come and build a solution on top of that particular tool, which requires knowledge around that industry, business knowledge around that industry, as well as a drive to actually solve a problem.
Yes, absolutely. It's the initiative that matters. Then the resources are always available, right? If it's something that I can help locally, maybe they can reach out to me. There are forums where people meet up in Hyderabad, where we used to meet up before the pandemic. Now I think it is, a lot of them have moved online. The HFF, the Hyderabad FinTech Forum, I think some of my colleagues here may be members of that. There's, I think the Hyperledger also has a forum here in Hyderabad where they used to meet up quite frequently. Again, they've moved it online. So if anybody is interested, more than welcome to just get in touch with me and I can add you to these groups. We have meetings like maybe once a month or twice a month, and then we have speakers from the government. It's a nice, very collaborative platform where if you have the initiative, you can get the resources. If you have the resources, you can get in touch with people, who are the key players in the industry. It's a nice, it's a very nice forum. Yeah, I can definitely help out with that.
Yeah, on top of it, I just want to add that business use case is definitely knowledge of that business, understanding about that on where value comes in. As per Ajay, I think that is very important. But once people figure out, I think the platform like Stacey will bring us a rapid prototyping and quick production deployment, thereby going for any use case across industry verticals can be plugged in into system, us, right? So I think Stacey will be the go-to platform for those kind of people who don't have too much of resources to really go and innovate. Top of it, have some customers, right? If system integrator partners want to try out to see that how they can really go to their customers very quick, and not just with the PowerPoint presentations, but in real product, you can build it just in a very cost-effective way. I think Stacey is the go-to place for people to come in.
Well, thank you all so much. I could truly sit and talk to you all day. I have lots more questions, but we are totally out of time. And so I'll just thank you and hope to catch up again in a year. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. This is the Blockchain Central India programming in partnership with the government of Telangana. We're so pleased to welcome our last panel of today. It is on the future of money, digital assets, and stablecoins. I'll now hand things over to our moderator, Prasanna Lohar. Thank you so much.
Hi, very good evening. Great to be here for this event. We have with you. My name is Prasanna. I'm from DCB Bank. I work as an innovation and architecture head out here. We have found some of our friends, Vishal, Ravikant, Tanvi, and Laurent out here. Vishal, to begin with you, can you just introduce yourself and followed by rest of the guys so that we'll keep some tone of the whole discussion here.
Thank you, Prasanna. Nice to be meeting all of you, some familiar faces. Hi, my name is Vishal. I am the Chief of Innovation at National Payment Corporation of India.
Yeah, Tanvi.
Yes, hi Prasanna. I'm Tanvi. I'm the founder of Policy 4.0, which is a policy and regulatory advisory firm looking into the future of money and digital assets.
Yeah, great. Ravi, you there?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. This is Ravi Agrawal. I'm VP of Strategy at Polygon. Polygon is the Ethereum scaling solution aggregator.
Laurent.
Hi, Prasanna. Hi, everyone. So I'm Laurent Ferrand-Pearson, Chief Operating Officer of BIT, leading global fintech. We're building CBDC infrastructure, including live systems and legal tender systems in Eastern Caribbean Central Bank with Dcash, and now in the next few days in Nigeria with the eNaira systems.
Great. I think, Laurent, it will be great to discuss with you and others. We have a final Makato.
Yeah, I'm Makoto Takemiya. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Soramitsu, and we are a blockchain company that is over 5 years old, and we're working with the Central Bank of Cambodia on their CBDC project and also doing research with the Bank of the Lao, PTR. And also we do quite a lot of contributions to the public cryptocurrency ecosystems, like for example, Kusama, Polkadot. We're working on a project called Sora, and we contribute to an app called PokeSwap, which is a DEX. So we have quite a large gamut of experience in the crypto and also CBDC space.
Yeah, great. I think it's like a very good collaboration with the government of Telangana, India. I think I have seen those days, right, along with my father, where I used to visit nearby bank branch and to do those paper-based transactions, wait for Taylor to give out those money. And the way the generation is moving ahead, right? And we've been hearing a lot of cryptocurrencies and how millennials are investing and trying it out, this crypto kind of economy, right? And at the same time, it's bringing us a lot of attention towards digital assets, and many countries, right? More than 60% the central banks are trying it out, centralized bank digital currency. 6,000 plus cryptocurrencies in worldwide. To begin with, Bitcoins, Ethereum is quietly adopted in many of those countries. And at the same time, on the regulation side, many countries are struggling, rather trying it out or studying around how do we really regulate this digital asset or a crypto, right? We are in mid of some kind of a new formation of money, right? Although we have seen paper currency, gold, or different forms of electronic currencies. And this is an era like since last 2-3 years. And we are now crafting or drafting how the money is going to change for the next many more years, right? To begin with, Vishal, you being innovation officer at one of those top payment company in India, National Payment Corporation of India. And NPCI is responsible rather as accelerating payment initiatives since last 10-12 years. And few of those path-breaking landscape like UPIs or Vajra, the one which you run with many banks, right, which is on blockchain. How do you see in India and how NPCI is looking at this whole adoption of the cryptos in India or outside of India? Yeah, what your view, please?
Yeah, so Prasanna, I think there are two parts to this whole digital currencies that we are talking about, right? I think the first one is the blockchain-based use cases, and I think all of us understand. I think blockchain is a great foundational technologies. I think I mean, we have been working in the technology space, and we understand that the way the whole concept of blockchain has been evolving over the last few years, and the use cases that are coming around, is tremendous, right? And it's a great technology. I think the technology itself I think it's path-breaking. Coming up with new innovations around security, around tokenizations. So a lot of things combined. It's a great technology, and I think we are past the pilot stage, experiment stage, and the doubts that we had in the banking space. People are now looking at how do we scale, how do we take this forward. I think that's definitely the intent. And as you rightly said, I think most of the central banks are looking at this whole initiative around the digital currencies. For me, I think that's not a question. I think it's definitely in the offerings. It's just that what would be the balancing act here? How do we manage the regulatory part of it and take advantage of the technology fantastic technology that provides a lot of features, right? So it's basically about how do we take this forward? How do we leverage this and find the right use cases, whether it is trade finance, whether it's a cross-border remittances, or payments to the financial excluded populations, right? I think there are tremendous use cases that can come out. It's a definitely promising technology, and we see what we have struggled doing in the normal payments, like the programmable money concept. I think it's definitely something that we need to start experimenting and fully leveraging that solution. And I think that's where we are also focusing. I think we are really excited with the what this technology can offer to us, and at the same time, how do we ensure the regulatory concerns are addressed on this? So that's what I would like to say, Prasanna.
Thanks, Vishal, for those initial views. When I look at Laurent, right? Laurent has the way he has depicted about CBDC adoption in some of those countries. Laurent, what's your view? What's really happening in the global? Why all of a sudden we are talking about digital assets? How is it going to really helpful for countries or some of those citizens, right? So, say example, in India, we keep hearing a lot of advertises around many companies like WazirX or CoinSeach and so on. Still, I look at some citizens who is wandering around the roads, right? How it is really going to be helpful for them, right? What's your view, like how some of those countries where you are practicing or you have implemented CBDCs or digital asset kind of programs? Maybe you can add on these value add to this whole discussion.
Yeah, broad question. Thank you for it. And I think, like everyone in this panel, we're seeing the world changes at an accelerated pace. And basically, the sense that we are seeing around the globe is this catch-up of the financial infrastructure into a truly digital financial infrastructure. And that's what digital assets have been able to enable over the initial experimentation, like Vishal was saying, and then pilots. And currently we're moving into a legal tender environment where we're seeing those projects hit the market at a broad scale with the adoption where the user, which are both consumers and the rest of the participants, bank and monetary authority, look for faster, cheaper, reliable payment support ways of growing the economy or improve the efficiency of the monetary policy, just as a few of those elements that are basically driving that adoption for every stakeholder.
Great, I think, Laurent. Polygon, right? Polygon these days making a lot of names everywhere. Ravikant, you being a strategist at a Polygon, how do you see what is the significance of crypto or digital assets? Is it really required in 2021, 2022, or how do you really see the path of adoption as far as some of the countries are concerned? Like they're already adopted, right? We've been hearing Bitcoin being adopted at El Salvador and so on. There are many small countries that adopted crypto, and they are looking at how they can really be part of an economy or how they can improvise their economy. What's your view, being a representation from a Polygon, how you are really looking at this whole adoption?
Certainly. So I think, payment has been one of the area where it has been always getting disrupted in terms of the innovation that is happening. So moving from cash to electronic to, now into the crypto era. I think what we are particularly exploring is that, earlier days when we used to talk about payment processing, it used to be mainly facilitating the transfer of funds. Now, but I think where we are looking at is the I would say redefining the way customer experience should also get engaged in terms of the payment processing, whether we can enable certain business owners to manage their businesses with, incredible ease, right? So from that perspective, if we look at the cryptocurrencies, I think there are certain inherent benefits that it brings in, whether it is related to the time of transfer, whether it is related to the transaction fees, the efficiencies, and so on. So I think from that perspective, if you are looking at some of the examples, what is happening across the globe, whether it is the progressive decentralization, or rather I would say progressive adoption of this technology that is happening in smaller steps, but that is particularly setting up stone for something big to happen. And we are optimistic in terms of, cryptocurrencies can certainly make some viable roads in terms of simplifying the payment landscape.
Yeah, I think Ravi, good views. But while we keep on adopting new technologies, and the pace of adoption of technology is always better than regulation, right? And regulation comes later on, talking about why it is really required, and it really makes at times some constraint, or at times it really helps also for adoption of technologies. Like in India, we have seen at a central MeitY had released some of the blockchain strategies, although there is a lot of work to do on the crypto side. But a blockchain being adopted, we've been talking at Telangana has done a lot of pilots, a lot of adoption of blockchain technologies. I think coming to regulation, there are many other aspects, right? Compliance. Tanvi, over to you. How do you see adoption of a technology like blockchain and crypto against compliance? What is that you look at? What is really necessary? Is it technology adoption or having a regulated technology adoption?
Oh, that's a great question, Prasanna. I think there's a general consensus in policy that innovation is a good unto itself, right? And so that is something that in society we must pursue, right? And I think when it comes to payments, already in payments in India, we've had this learning curve in terms of policy. It started with the fintechs, and now we have these advanced ecosystems with UPI, and we have one of the most thriving fintech ecosystems. I think similarly with crypto, the challenge I think for India is that there's really no approach that sort of fits well for India, right? There's no sort of globally experimented or proven approach that's very useful in the Indian context for the risk that we have, because we have capital controls and we have all these other restrictions that are not there in the US, they're not there in Europe. Also, our regulatory setup is very different from these countries, right? Like we don't have very many of the similar frameworks. But then we have a lot of other things in terms of infrastructure, in terms of India stack and all of that, right? So this is one case where India really has to pioneer its own approach. And I think that's where there's been a big gap in terms of knowledge also, because this is a very complex subject. It's not something that typically our regulators are used to, getting into nitty-gritties of how the key movements happen and all of these things, right? So it's taken time, but I don't think it's end game. I think like if India gets it right, India is sitting at a very good point in time where there's a lot of development come out of India. Like Ravi is a very good spokesperson for that, because he's very much at the helm of this whole ecosystem, which is really starting to explode here in India. And there's a lot more maturity now in this technology. So I think it's very important that India gets it right. But that will take a lot of innovation in regulation, right? Like not just in the technology side. And I think like that's really the thing that we sort of are working on in our agency.
Yeah, great. I think so far we've been hearing out a lot of trends, how the regulations role will have. I think I'll move to the Makato and try to understand basics, right? So cryptocurrencies, there are a lot of cryptocurrencies. We've been hearing about digital assets, stable coins. I'm not sure how many different types of a currency, different types of the coins will come up, right? Cryptocurrencies typically are like a public, right? And can be volatile and maybe may have value can be changed the way the community changes, right? Or stable coins are stable at times, backed by some fiat currencies, so on, right? So can you just highlight more? What is that better for us? Is it crypto or is stable or some kind of a different digital asset? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very deep topic. So yeah, like you said, cryptocurrencies are typically seen as very volatile. So for example, Bitcoin or in the Sora ecosystem, Zor, these are tokens that move up and down quite a lot in the market. And that's because these markets are very small. And if the markets became, I would say, sufficiently large and used in daily transactions, then you would see some convergence of value. So you wouldn't see, well, it's really the speculation, right? The speculative cycles that cause the volatility. So if you had more use and utility and less speculation, in theory, you would have less volatility as well. Stable coins are interesting because they do multiple things. So they facilitate payments, which you could use Bitcoin for, or PayPal, or many different methods. But they also, because they have some guarantees or predictions about the stability of value, stable coins are also useful for more advanced applications. So for example, locking up as in collateral in different smart contracts and underwriting insurance contracts, different things like that. And that really powers quite a lot of the potential of cryptocurrencies and so-called DeFi or decentralized finance, because you can actually combine many different parts, including stablecoins, including cryptocurrencies if you wanted to, into kind of like money Legos, or kind of these building blocks that you can piece together and build more complex objects. And that's a big difference. In fact, I was reading on Twitter earlier today. I think it's Kunig on Twitter, was JP Kunig, I think is the username. He was talking about, sorry if I butchered the name, but he was talking about one of the big differences between PayPal versus a stablecoin. Yeah, both are useful for payments, but stablecoins are useful to be locked up into contracts and be used as collateral. And they're part of the whole money Lego type of philosophy, where you build up all these different financial products using these pieces. And you can do the same with cryptocurrencies, of course. Now, I'll just kind of say that you can also have a hybrid type of system. You can have cryptocurrencies that do have some price stabilization mechanisms. So in the future, Zora is trying to do this using a token bonding curve contract once there's some collateral in the token bonding curve. So it's really a smart contract that does some automated market operations in order to give predictability to currency. And super long term, one of the things that I think would be really interesting is just having a stable coin that's pegged to something like the US dollar is still volatile with respect to value, right? Because the dollar, right, has lost maybe more than 5% of its value in the last year. And so for purchasing power, right? And so being able to peg to some index, like an index of goods, like the Chilean Unidad de Fomento, which is an index published by the central bank that it's like a cost of living index. So it's able to track the cost of real goods. And I think something like that can be more meaningful in the long run for creating, if you want to create something like a supranational currency that could be used across many different countries and many different populations without having to really worry about volatility. You would have at least some stability with respect to purchasing power. And I think that's going to be the future of money, in my personal opinion. But we'll see where it goes. I think the other speakers, what they said about regulation is really correct. And there's a lot of unknowns as well. And also you don't want to regulate too early, because regulating too early hurts innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the way you have explained about stable coins, cryptos, and how it has to move towards like something like a super currency, right? It's a really great concept. I think I come to Laurent, right? Laurent, you have seen a lot of global companies like Facebook has tried for Libra, right? Or Visa is being trying, they're investing or working a lot of research around how they can have a interoperable CBDC, and that's the view. Whatever they had done so far on a cards or a payment space, now they want to again rule that space in the crypto space, right? What your experience says, right? Being a service provider, suppose we have implemented one CBDC in Nigeria or Caribbeans, or there are many more countries will come up their own CBDCs. What is that guideline a country should adopt while implementing the CBDC? What is that steps on technology side, how they should really look at, Laurent? Yeah.
Maybe on the at a macro level, we need to look at some of the elements Makoto mentioned, is that all of this is around convergence. We're converging towards a fully digital financial infrastructure. And instead of pegging one against each other, they're basically just iteration of innovations in that are pushing forward that customer experience that we were talking about earlier. And we say customer, it can be all the stakeholders in the ecosystem. So some countries, non-G20, G20, G7 countries are experimenting or adopting CBDCs, while others are looking at stablecoin kind of as a proxy. And what we're seeing, for example, in market is in some countries where there is deeper talks of CBDC, and I say talks in quotation, that can be research or technical experimentation, there's in parallel an acceleration of adoption of stablecoin within the financial infrastructure. And that's because they need to get, those stakeholders need to get acquainted with the benefits and the efficiency of handling digital currencies in all forms. And that's basically just looking at the time scale at which it will arrive. We tend to say a monetary authority has one shot at releasing an infrastructure at that scale, where financial institutions or other fintechs have multiple shots at getting it right. And some of the projects you've mentioned, the older Libra and the new form of DM, and some of Makoto's examples, are just example of this iterative innovation that we're seeing in market. That's absolutely amazing to see.
I think one aspect, when I look at the technology adoption, the way last 3-4 years, blockchain, crypto, or artificial intelligence, and all of a sudden we will land up in the era of 5G. Maybe next 2 to 3 years, at least in India, we'll see some practice around 5G. And the customer behavior will change. Customer will be more of a micro payments or immediate payments, or maybe the payment through some IoT devices or payment through their cars and so on. And there we will require a lot of trust, right? Whether that payment has happened, not happened. I think those microeconomics will come up so much in our life. So Ravikant, do you see this kind of adoption will happen, and how companies should be ready for that? Say example, Polygon is one of those now name, right? Where most of the development community looking at a very rapid application development tool on Ethereum. So can you name some of those use cases which we'll see, or you foresee that which will be on top of Polygon and supporting crypto or a digital asset or a stablecoin kind of use cases?
Yeah, certainly. I think there are quite a few interesting ones. In fact, let's consider, let's say, play to earn. This is a very emerging area where typically people from, let's say, Vietnam, Philippines, they are actually paying up their tuition fees, their rentals by playing games, right? So there are very interesting use cases by, instead of play to win, now play to earn is a very interesting use case. Another one where, let's say, when we are building certain systems, it used to be audited internally, but there are applications where, let's say, it is now being open to the world. So anybody who used to previously do some kind of an auditing or would like to, find bugs into the solutions, they can do it more ethically. So there are platforms where if you have figured out a particular bug, you can go and report onto a platform like MeitY and get paid. There are also interesting use cases. Let's say when you are holding a particular asset, how can you leverage some kind of a yield on this kind of an asset, which are otherwise sitting idle? I think even from, let's say, if we talk primarily from India focused perspective, so there is a big gap in terms of MSME segment, right? The number that I remember is 600 billion kind of a credit gap that exists today. There is certainly a possibility, and there is also an exploration going on. Can crypto fund such a big MSME lending gap? Right. So people who are holding up digital assets, can those kind of assets be leveraged in terms of filling up this gap, and they can earn yield on top of it, right? So there are very interesting use cases, and I'm not talking theoretical. There are actual implementations that are out on this on this type of use cases.
Great. I think, Makato, do you agree with Ravikant, the type of use cases? Have you seen similar kind of adoption on the crypto?
Yeah, so in the cryptocurrency space, there's quite a lot of exciting use cases that we've seen in the decentralized finance area, and it's almost like cliche talking about DeFi or NFTs, but they're actually they are kind of maturing to the point where these products are actually meeting or being able to meet human needs, and even for regular people. I don't want to say the name of the project, but there is a project that's actually quite interesting. You can log in just with your Google account, and it has encrypted key storage with that, and it's really just made for anyone. Anyone in the world can just log into this DeFi application and use it, and that's quite exciting to see this type of innovation, because then that's where we get mass adoption. But I do think the best use cases and the best products are going to be products that people don't really even know they're using blockchain or cryptocurrency. They just kind of think about, oh, this is some kind of NFT that I want to buy, maybe for a game or some kind of, social status symbol or something. And then for DeFi, it's the same thing. Like maybe you have some assets and you need some liquidity to do something like, hey, I want to buy a car or something. It has nothing to do with cryptocurrencies per se. It's really about meeting human needs, and that's really, I think, the trend that we're starting to get to. It's been exciting to kind of watch what's going on in El Salvador, because they have started to use Bitcoin as a legal tender, and it's not always a smooth ride to do new things, but it is quite exciting and interesting to see new people who haven't had experience to crypto before actually getting involved and trying it out, learning how to use a wallet, these types of things. But if I look into the future of the next maybe 5 to 10 years, I think a lot of these applications where it's really hard and cumbersome and you have to do this onboarding, I think that's going away. I think we're going to have just a seamless integration that people won't even know they're using crypto, and that's the best crypto experience, I think.
Yeah, I think that's how crypto certainly gonna change life, I think. And if you look at various countries, right, how they're adopting the better regulation. And coming back to India, a lot of things are happening on the blockchain side, but still at a crypto, it's always a noise and a voice. Still, we have seen a couple of unicorns around crypto space in India in this year itself. Tanvi, what's your view, right? Looking at how globally it is happening, we have seen Asia adoption around 9% in 2020. We have seen globally it is being adopted everywhere, and still India is still yet to come up with is it India really waiting or gonna come up with some fruitful, the way we have UPIs or Aadhaar, which are like a landscape changing systems which you have seen. I think Tanvi, maybe Vishal, would you like to add like how you look at as an NPCI or a payment accelerator company in India? How do you look at the adoption should happen on a crypto side? Do you see some good use cases for citizens who are in some villages who are looking for a better financial inclusions, how really crypto can be really helpful for them. I think Ravikant touched upon MSME, right? It's a 600 billion that gap, and a lot of schemes are coming from central government of India. PM has spoken on Atmanirbhar, how we can have a smart supply chain based upon a blockchain. There are initiatives. How do you utilize the data, which is from some of the GSTs data, and we can really use that data and give a better financial inclusion for SMEs, MSMEs, lending experience. So how do you look at crypto adoption, and what are those typical use cases we should really concentrate for better financial inclusion? Yeah.
So Prasanna, I think from an India perspective, that we can talk about.
Your voice is echoing.
Still echoing?
Yeah, it's echoing.
Maybe Tanvi can take it. I'll just check and come back.
Yeah, so Tanvi is back here. So Tanvi, we were talking about crypto has a power, right? To maybe we've been hearing about oil, right? Which is the one of those driving factor for a better economies. And then we have seen the data, how it can be utilized. Today we talk about crypto. The companies, the companies or countries who will adopt crypto kind of or tokenization or better use cases for a better financial inclusion. So what's your view looking at the way world is adopting crypto for a betterment of their citizens? What are those typical areas we should look at while drafting better regulation for India, and how policy 4.0 is helping Indian government in those lines? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. And I'm sorry that I just lost connection at the exact wrong moment. But yeah, technology is like that sometimes, right? So I was just saying that, see, in terms of regulation, if you see, just as there's a lot happening on the innovation side globally, there's a lot happening on the regulation side also globally, right? And you have seen many waves of it. Like there have been phases where all the concern was on these crowdsourcing and fundraising and ICOs. Then there's been a lot of concern after that on, how you regulate, different kinds of companies that are coming up in this space. Then there's been a lot of focus on illicit activity. And now if you see, a lot of the regulatory attention is moving to the core crypto, the core sort of planks of the crypto economy, right? Like stable coins, there's a lot of global attention on it. Fixing things in DeFi, which is sort of going to become decentralized working of this network is going to become a very mainstream thing, right? There's a lot of regulatory attention on that. So what's happening is on the regulatory front, you are seeing actually some backtracking, right, from a lot of places, even places which are very progressive. Sometimes they'll say things that are very surprising, right? Or even places like Singapore, sometimes you'll hear things from the MAS which will surprise you, and doesn't sound very crypto friendly, right? So what is happening is there's a sort of double-edged sword when it comes to crypto, right? The more it succeeds, the more it becomes a threat to regulators, right? The more it becomes a sort of threat to the state, right? And so it's always a double-edged sword, like where the more it succeeds, the more the controls or the tightening around it happens, right? And I think there are enough astute observers who have already pointed that out. Like Ray Dalio famously said, right? Like the more it succeeds, there'll be more. It's what do you say? It could fail because it succeeds, right? So I think in terms of the regulatory and policy debate, because that's something I've tracked in this space for a long time in a global way, I think right now you're seeing a little more tightening around crypto than opening, right? Like there are places like El Salvador, but you can see like after El Salvador did this, there's been a lot of IMF pressure on El Salvador, in terms of like their loans and things are not getting sanctioned because they are monetarily very dependent on the US, right? They don't have their own monetary system. So after El Salvador did this, then you had China, which has now gone and banned crypto. And so it's not a very straightforward regulatory trend, right? If you ask me, it's not that there's, okay, here's this trend and like India just has to follow this trend, right? Like every country is sort of going about this in a piecemeal way. They're looking at their national interest. Like the US, the dollar is their national interest and they have to protect it at all costs, right? So now you're seeing their focus moving fully on stable coins. For China, I mean, they can't take these kind of currency outflows. They recently had this Evergrande issue, right? And right at the back of it, you're seeing this action that they took on crypto, and they can't have capital flight out of China. So the regulatory issue, I would say it's not very straightforward, right? And it's something where you have to weigh a lot of gray aspects together, before you make a decision. So I think the regulation in this space is as complex as the technological pieces, that have to get built.
Yeah, I think good views. I think one question coming up here on the chat is that how do you see CBDCs facilitating global settlement versus payment companies like Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, etc. Right? When we see the adoption of a crypto or a crypto bank, right? We don't really need intermediaries like Visas or any of those, right? The way we have created this banking since last 50, 60 or more than those years, right? Moreover, these companies now shaping up as a crypto companies like Visas, MasterCard, doing a lot of POCs, pilots. Even NPCI is driving some of the blockchain initiatives and so on. But coming back, say example, we have seen pandemic, right? Something coming from some city, and it has really impacted everywhere, right? And today we have technology like UPI, the way Singapore is partnering with some countries like in India, they have done partnership for UPI, right? Wherein we can do the payment transaction immediately. But at the end, there is a cycle for reconciliation, settlement always remain in the back end, right? For operations. So, Laurent, how do you see CBDC can become or create some kind of a super economy, super currency? Say, example, we have a lot of fiat currencies, but every country is suppose coming up with CBDC. I think a cross-border payment or trade finance, many more other use cases can become so easy, right? So, what's your view? How CBDC can really help for a whole global payment ecosystem in India, in the world? Yeah.
Well, again, a large question. The CBDC is clearly one piece of a puzzle. And what we have to put in perspective is that the cost of building those infrastructure, building those remittance corridors are drastically going down. In the same way, there's been large transformation in other industries with digitization, for example, in the telco industry. The banking infrastructure will change itself. Yes. A lot of the thickness of those infrastructure is just due to legacy infrastructure and legacy ways of doing. And it's not about completely disintermediating. It's about looking at that future and the distinction between the evolution of payments versus the evolution of remittance, etc. It's just again a question of convergence, and when are all of these going to converge together? The point I like to make in this situation is to think that the technology innovation we've seen over the last 30 years that have accelerated over much more, but that has accelerated with the emergence of internet is just now being fueled by the ability to programmatically manage and create the financial infrastructure, the currency infrastructure. And that's where the innovation is.
Great. I think great views, Laurent. One more question, Ravi. How is Polygon adoption in India? Like, are they really looking at some kind of a government use cases, partnering with the government of India? Are they looking at globally how they can become a blockchain hub, one hub for many more use cases you spoke, right? Yeah. You're mute, maybe.
So sorry. Yeah, I think so. To set the context, I think Polygon is a decentralized network. So we typically, have solutions or other solution provider or the developers who build solution using Polygon. So I think what we have recently seen is there is certainly interest from all aspects. So what, let's say the enterprise have a similar requirement, what government also have the requirement in terms of bringing in more transactions, and then the privacy aspect of it. So at Polygon, what some of the use cases that we have seen recently developed by certain startups that includes, let's say, RT-PCR test result that is being audited using Polygon technology, right? So that nobody tamper the test results and make their way to a airport. Similarly, I think areas where caste certificate or let's say your education certificate, which are either issued by your state boards or the particular universities, I think from a perspective that public blockchain can act like a audit anchor. So you can have your transactions being recorded onto public blockchain and they can be audited whenever anybody wanted to audit that. So I think those are some of the interesting use cases that are being seen from a government perspective.
Great. I think Vishal is there. Vishal, we were talking about NPCI's perspective, you being one of those influencers for NPCI. I think NPCI done a lot of experimentation around fast tracking the settlements in payment ecosystem with the Vajra, right? So how do you see NPCI is at the forefront, has given a lot of those innovations on top of which world is also looking at how they can collaborate with UPI kind of ecosystems. What is that in future for NPCI, considering a lot of things are happening on digital assets, crypto, and so on?
So I think, Prasanna, I think it's very difficult to predict, but yeah, I think from an NPCI perspective, we look at technology, and as a key driver for innovations, and definitely blockchain is and distributed ledger is one of the key components. Digital currency is definitely in the radar, but I think a lot of it will depend on a lot of variables, and I think in India, especially, what we see is that I don't think we have seen a very scalable use case that can meet our requirements in a more efficient way. I think we are talking about a lot of things. I think there's a lot of potential, but I think there is not a clear use case which is a overall winner at this point. So I think it will be a slow growth. We have to see how the experiments will pan out, whether on CBDC or on other digital currencies, and what's that key one killer use case that can catch the imagination. I think we are still struggling on that at this point. Obviously there is a lot of potential, but we have to see and wait, how this pans out. So
I think absolutely right, Vishal. I think the way RBI is looking at CBDC, they are working on something on the CBDC cross-border. RBI has come up with the second cohort on the cross-border payments. That's the adoption we are seeing, like company like NPCI or IBMs or Microsoft, government like Telangana, Maharashtra, Kerala, they are coming with a lot of use cases. The pace of adoption compared to internet, the blockchain adoption, at least in India, is very huge. Even at awareness or education and many more other aspects, and the push happening from a crypto community to the government of India, I think certainly we'll see some kind of crypto backed by some assets, maybe wheat coins or milk coins, or maybe better shape currency which are good for citizens or good for better financial inclusion, or which will help lift up the global economy. I think a very good session with you all. If I ask, like, for a 10-second, like, what is that use case you look at in a global perspective or a country perspective on a crypto? Maybe starting with Laurent and then Ravikant and Makatu, Tanvi. Yeah, not more than 10 seconds. Yeah.
We're only at the beginning of this journey, and every part of a puzzle is basically pushing us forward towards this innovation and the benefit that it unlocks for our economies.
Perfect. Yeah, Ravi.
I think translation of some of the assets which were not valued otherwise unless we bring them into Web3. So tokenization of different types of assets. Yeah.
Makato?
It's about creating a post-dollar New World economic order that will hopefully help small businesses and innovation more than the dollar system did.
Vishal?
I think the central bank currency is definitely a big one, and the tokens, also I see a great potential in that.
Yeah, Tanvi, finally over to you.
To summarize, you feel the whole impact of this whole movement into digital currency. I think it's going to create a whole new economy. I mean, it's creating a whole new economic model, the way we do business, what we value, what we monetize, what we are able to transact with in an economy. I mean, transactions are the basis of the whole economy, and you're changing that at its most fundamental level. So I think it's going to change the way the world works. I mean,
yeah, I do agree. I like the line, it's gonna change the world, right? We have seen 20 years or 25 years before internet came in and change our whole life. I think maybe in 2050 it will be like autonomous world. Today it's a collaboration world, and we have API economy or open banking or a lot many business models around lending and many more things, right? But I think crypto will come and change the way we do banking or the way we do transactions. I think in the future maybe banks will not need a signatures or some kind of a witness, and it will be like available just like that on in autonomous world. I think crypto is gonna be their digital assets. I think what Ravikant spoken about some of those use cases, NFTs, and how Laurent has drafted around CBDC's adoption should be there. Makato or Vishal spoken about lot many aspects around crypto and how India is driving with the NPCI. I think what is that I can see collaboration is rising on a heavy everywhere. I think GBBC organized this Blockchain India Central, right, along with the Telangana government is one of the example, and it will keep on continuing. How do we really adopt blockchain worldwide? I think these kind of collaborations are really helping blockchain kind of a technology or crypto to make much more, right? Facebook collaborated with 30 plus companies. It was one of the example, right? People were like stunned, like what Libra is gonna do, but that gives some kind of attention. It has a power, right? Crypto has a power to become a super currency, right? And really help the way we have some bottlenecks in crypto, cross-border or trade finance and many more. And the way we are thinking now and the way millennials are thinking, right? They will come up with a different kind of a business model, different kind of assets where you will start investing the way I have seen crypto. We never thought crypto be an asset 20 years before. We were only around savings, current or loans or mutual funds and so on. I think future is going to be bright, and it's in our hand. How do we really research around, adopt it, and nurture this whole technology? So finally, thank you so much, Ravikant, Laurent, Vishal, and Tanvi for being part of a global blockchain business councils this event, which is a Blockchain Central India, partnered with Telangana government of India. Thank you so much, organizer, for inviting here and talk about this technology.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, go ahead, Vishal.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to host Blockchain Central India in cooperation with the government of Telangana. We encourage you all to follow GBBC and the government of Telangana for updates on the blockchain ecosystem in Hyderabad, Telangana, and India, and globally. We will be sharing recordings of today's sessions as well. So thank you, everyone, and thank you to our honored guests and the government for their assistance, collaboration, and support.
Thank you. Bye-bye.